In the grand expanse of the universe, most civilizations had grown accustomed to their place in the cosmic order. Peace was a distant, fragile thing that existed only in fleeting moments between wars, and the fragile alliances between species were often broken at the slightest provocation. The galaxy was filled with countless alien races, each vying for power, resources, and dominance. They had known war, subjugation, and revolution. But there was one species, one unassuming species, whose power was yet unknown to the galaxy. The humans. To many, Earth and its inhabitants were nothing more than an afterthought in the vastness of the cosmos. It was a small, blue planet in the Milky Way, far from the centers of galactic power. While the Centauri, the dominant insectoid empire, crushed entire planets with their military might, or the Thalxians, the cruel, telepathic conquerors, used their mental powers to bend entire star systems to their will, humanity was merely seen as a blip, a curiosity, at best. But that was about to change. The events began quietly, unnoticed by the larger players in the galaxy, but they were quickly gaining momentum. In the year 3025, a strange energy fluctuation was detected at the outer edges of human-controlled space, a faint signal emanating from a newly discovered system. It was weak, barely a whisper, but it had a peculiar signature that defied all known analysis. The Zorith, an ancient race of intellectuals and explorers, had been the first to examine it, but their cryptic findings had done little to clarify the mystery. They simply couldn't decipher the energy, and it was growing stronger with each passing day. On Earth, the government's best scientists and military strategists were stumped. The anomaly was clearly coming from a star system near the fringes of their expansion, but no one could figure out what it was or how to investigate it further. Despite this, the president of the United Earth Federation, Daria Toms, knew something was wrong. The star system wasn't far from the border of Centauri space, and the Zoritha's inability to understand the phenomenon only raised her suspicion. And then came the first clue that would change everything. It was a simple transmission, coming from an outpost far beyond the Federation's outermost colonies. A routine check-in had been missed, and when a probe was dispatched to investigate, it found the outpost abandoned, no signs of life, no struggle, just silence. But there was something else. The station's records were gone. Wiped. Erased. All that remained was an encrypted message sent by one of the station's last remaining crew members. The message was chilling in its simplicity, *, we found it. And now, it's here. Humanity has woken. *. At the time, the message made little sense. Who was it, and what did they mean by, humanity has woken? What was the connection between this discovery and the strange energy anomaly? Yet, there was a sense of dread in the message that could not be ignored. The Federation responded quickly. A fleet of ships was dispatched to investigate the system and reclaim the lost outpost. As they approached the coordinates, the anomaly seemed to intensify, growing stronger with each passing hour. The fleet's sensors were overwhelmed by a force they couldn't identify, and one by one, they began to lose contact. A dozen ships vanished without a trace. It was then that the truth began to reveal itself in bits and pieces. An ancient, forgotten race of humanity had been scattered across the stars long ago, humans who had developed unimaginable powers far beyond anything the Federation or the galaxy had ever known. Over centuries, these powers had been buried, lost to history, forgotten by all but a few scholars and conspiracy theorists. But now, these powers were awakening. And the anomaly wasn't just a fluke, it was a signal, a call to arms, a summons to the galaxy that humanity was no longer the weak, insignificant species they had once been. The question on everyone's mind became clear: what had been unleashed? As the Federation scrambled to understand the magnitude of the situation, whispers of the return of humanity's greatest power began to spread. Some believed the old myths, stories passed down through generations of humans, that their ancestors had once controlled forces that could rival gods. Others saw it as a new beginning, a chance for humanity to finally take its place among the stars, no longer as a mere footnote in galactic history, but as a force to be reckoned with. But even as the Federation sought to harness this newfound power, they were not the only ones who had noticed. The Zentari, the Thalxians, and even the enigmatic Cytheri, an ancient and enigmatic race known for their ability to manipulate time, had turned their attention to the anomaly. But they weren't interested in understanding it. They were focused on one thing: domination. And thus, the universe found itself on the precipice of something no one could have ever anticipated. Something no one was prepared for. The day that humanity's unstoppable power would be felt across the cosmos was rapidly approaching. And the galaxy, for all its arrogance and assumptions, would never be the same again. As the Federation scrambled to contain the chaos unfolding around the mysterious energy anomaly, the true nature of humanity's forgotten legacy began to surface in fragments. The first sign came when Captain Sophia Carter of the USS Peregrine, a ship dispatched to investigate the now-destroyed human outpost, discovered something that defied every known law of physics. Her ship's sensors had picked up a burst of energy so powerful it knocked their communications offline, but there was something unmistakable about it: it was human-made. Carter, known for her sharp intellect and fearless leadership, took a risk and ordered her crew to approach the anomaly closer. A massive storm of energy swirled around the center of the system, a phenomenon that would have destroyed any other ship in its path. But as they neared, the ship's systems began to behave erratically, flickering to life and responding to commands in ways they couldn't explain. The most shocking discovery came when Carter herself, unable to resist the strange pull of the anomaly, stepped outside of the Peregrine's shielded command center to investigate a hunch. The moment she stepped onto the surface of the outpost, she felt it, a surge of power running through her body like an electric current. She froze, eyes wide as her hand involuntarily reached out to touch the cold metal of the station's control panel. Then, as if by instinct, the station's systems began to reboot. The lights flickered to life, and the encryption that had once blocked all attempts to access the data vanished. It was as if the station itself had been waiting for her. The screen displayed the message, *, "Welcome back, Captain Carter. You are the key." *. Confused and overwhelmed, Captain Carter felt an urge to dive deeper, but as she did, her mind swirled with ancient memories, fragments of a past life, a life she had never lived. Images of great battles, fleets of ships, and enormous energies flashing through her mind overwhelmed her senses. She collapsed, the sheer intensity of the power causing her to lose consciousness. When she awoke, it was to a scene unlike anything she had ever seen. The crew of the Peregrine had been waiting for her return, but there was something different about them, too. They all carried a newfound look in their eyes, something that spoke of a shared understanding of an ancient truth, a truth that had only just begun to awaken within them. The ship's AI, once a simple machine, had transformed into something else, speaking to them in an ancient tongue that seemed oddly familiar to Carter. It was clear, something inside them had changed. The Peregrine was no longer just a ship. It was a beacon, a vessel of humanity's untapped potential. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the power struggle was beginning to intensify. The Zentari had not been idle in the face of the human anomaly. Their military leadership, under the brutal command of Emperor Croth, had already dispatched several fleets to the region, hoping to seize control of whatever power lay hidden within the human anomaly. The Zentari, known for their brutal efficiency and warlike nature, assumed that they could overwhelm humanity and take what was rightfully theirs, just as they had done with countless other civilizations. But even the Zentari's most fearsome warlords were wary of what they were sensing. Their scouts reported strange phenomena, unnatural forces bending the laws of physics, and ships that had vanished into thin air, never to return. Croth's elite warriors were trembling, and there were whispers that this time, the humans had something far beyond their understanding. A mysterious force that could turn the tide of the entire galaxy. It was something that couldn't be fought with sheer strength alone. On the other side of the galaxy, the Thalxians, whose telepathic abilities had long made them rulers of vast swaths of space, were equally troubled. The Thalxian High Council met in secret to discuss the growing threat. They had always prided themselves on their control over minds, their ability to read and manipulate thoughts, bending entire civilizations to their will. But something was happening. Human minds were resistant to their telepathic powers, as if humanity had evolved some kind of natural immunity to their influence. The Thalxians feared that this anomaly, this awakening of humanity's forgotten power, might be the key to turning the tables in the galaxy's complex struggle for power. The question that hung in the air was not just how to stop humanity, but how to prevent them from becoming the dominant force in the galaxy. Far beyond the reach of these races, an even darker presence stirred. The Cytheri, ancient manipulators of time, had been watching quietly from the shadows. These beings, with their deep knowledge of temporal manipulation, had never directly intervened in galactic affairs. They preferred to observe, ensuring the flow of time and the balance of power were never disrupted. But something was different now. A temporal disturbance, a rippling in the fabric of time itself, had drawn their attention. They could feel the power of the humans, a power that threatened to alter the timeline in ways that could not be predicted. They had to act before humanity's ascension was complete. Back on Earth, as the news of Captain Carter's discovery spread, humanity began to respond to the growing awareness of their potential. The Federation's top scientists had begun to unlock fragments of the lost knowledge, remnants of the ancient human race that had once controlled incredible, godlike powers. The question now was whether humanity could harness this power before the galaxy's more dangerous species could strike. The first steps of humanity's awakening were subtle. Military officers, scientists, and civilians began to exhibit strange, unexplainable abilities. Some could manipulate objects with their minds. Others experienced bursts of strength and speed that defied logic. And the most terrifying among them were the humans who could sense the intentions of others, reading minds and even altering thoughts. The galaxy's long-standing perception of humanity as weak, insignificant creatures was about to be shattered forever. As the Federation began to piece together the fragments of the past, they realized that the true power of humanity was not in their technology or weapons. It was in their potential for growth, their adaptability, and their drive to evolve beyond any limitations. The day the universe felt humanity's unstoppable power was dawning. The tension in the galaxy was palpable. Every major power, from the ruthless Centauri to the secretive Thalxians, had now recognized the emerging threat that was humanity's rise. What had once been dismissed as a curiosity, a small race on the fringes of galactic affairs, was now a force that could not be ignored. As each civilization wrestled with the implications of this newfound power, their strategies became clear: attack before humanity could fully awaken its potential. On Earth, the Federation's top military minds were now scrambling to consolidate their strength. The anomaly was still expanding, but now they understood that the signal wasn't just a beacon, it was a call to arms. The Federation's fleet, now under the command of General Elias Grant, was being rapidly restructured to prepare for an offensive. In the space above Earth, warships, research vessels, and supply ships began to form a massive fleet, their engines humming with the raw energy that had been unlocked from the ancient technologies. But even within the Federation, not all was unified. There were those who saw humanity's sudden power as a potential curse, a force that could draw the attention of the galaxy's most dangerous species. Some, including Admiral Fiona Clark, voiced caution, fearing that humanity's new power would make them a target. Clark was a decorated officer who had served during the Great Wars, and she had seen firsthand the destructive potential of underestimating the enemy. "You don't understand, General," Clark warned in an emergency meeting with Grant and President Toms. "We have no idea what we're dealing with. We've awakened something far older than us. This power, it's not just a tool, it's a weapon. And once we reveal ourselves, we'll be painted as targets." But Grant, a staunch believer in humanity's ability to overcome any obstacle, disagreed. "The galaxy has already underestimated us for too long, Admiral. It's time we show them that we're not afraid. We're going to strike first. We need to take the initiative before the Centauri or the Thalxians do." President Toms, the leader who had always been a calm and steady hand on the Federation's helm, remained silent, weighing both sides of the argument. But it was clear that humanity's moment had arrived, and there was no turning back. The first strike came not from a fleet of ships, but from an unexpected source: the humans themselves. Across the Federation, men and women who had once been ordinary civilians began to exhibit extraordinary abilities. Soldiers in training developed abilities to manipulate energy, bending it to create powerful weapons or shields. Scientists unlocked the secrets of telekinetic manipulation, allowing them to move massive objects with a mere thought. The most powerful among them, however, could alter reality itself, manipulating time and space in ways that seemed impossible. Captain Sophia Carter, now fully attuned to the dormant power within her, had become the spearhead of this movement. Under her guidance, the first human strike team was formed, composed of specially selected individuals who had undergone intense training to master their new abilities. Their mission was clear: to incapacitate the Zentari's closest supply outposts and communication relays along the outer rim. With the humans' new power, they could take down entire fleets without firing a single shot. Carter's team, aboard the Peregrine, launched their first attack under the cover of darkness. They breached Zentari-controlled space with a fleet of 5 ships, each manned by individuals who were now capable of manipulating gravity itself, tearing holes in the fabric of spacetime to travel faster than any ship could move. As they approached the Zentari outpost, the ship's hull began to hum with energy, crackling and flickering as Carter stood at the helm, her mind reaching out, sensing the chaos of the enemy below. The Zentari had no idea what was coming. With a single command, Carter unleashed the full force of humanity's power. The crew, working in perfect unison, distorted the space around them, causing the outpost's energy fields to collapse instantly. Within minutes, the heavily fortified outpost was reduced to a smoldering ruin. The Zentari commanders, who had never expected a direct assault from humans with such devastating precision, were left scrambling to respond. The galaxy watched in horror as the news spread like wildfire. Humanity had struck, and they had done so with a power that no one had ever seen before. Elsewhere, the Thalxians were beginning to feel the tremors of the human strike. Their telepathic networks, once considered impenetrable, were starting to crack. Humans who had awakened to their telepathic potential were able to block, even fight back, against their influence. Entire Thalxian fleets were reporting inexplicable failures in their communication and coordination systems. And most disturbing of all, the Cytheri had detected a ripple in the timeline itself, an anomaly that seemed to resonate with the rise of humanity. It was now clear: humanity was a threat to the established order of the galaxy. But not all threats were equal. The Cytheri, with their control over time, had seen enough to know that the full extent of humanity's power had not yet been revealed. But they understood that the galaxy had become a stage for a new, unknown actor, a species whose potential was limitless, and whose will was unstoppable. Back on Earth, President Toms prepared for a critical decision. The Federation's power was growing, but the threat from the galaxy's most advanced civilizations was only escalating. The Zentari had begun mobilizing their full military force, and the Thalxians were using their telepathic spies to infiltrate human ranks. Humanity had become the galaxy's new focal point, and the question was no longer if they could defend themselves, it was whether they could take the fight to the stars and claim their place among the cosmos. A new era had begun. And humanity would not be passive. The galaxy had just felt the first tremors of humanity's unstoppable power. The galaxy had entered a period of unprecedented tension. Humanity, once regarded as a footnote in the grand history of the stars, had shown its raw power. The strike on the Zentari outpost had been only the beginning, but its impact had rippled across the galaxy. Every major civilization, from the ruthless Zentari to the calculating Thalxians, was now on high alert, preparing for the inevitable conflict with this rising human force. But for humanity, the most dangerous challenge was not the external threat, it was the growing internal divisions and the cost of their newfound power. The Federation had achieved an extraordinary feat in a short amount of time, but they were not yet prepared for the consequences. The Peregrine, now a symbol of humanity's resurgence, floated silently in the outer reaches of human-controlled space. Captain Sophia Carter stood at the bridge, her eyes fixed on the holographic star chart ahead. The mission had been successful, but the price was becoming evident. The crew, once a collection of highly trained officers, had become something more. They had been changed, altered, by the very energy they had tapped into. Carter herself had felt it most acutely. She had always been a leader, a tactician, someone who could read the battlefield and make split-second decisions. But now, her abilities went beyond that. She could sense the thoughts of her crew, the emotions that pulsed through them like a rhythm. She could manipulate the gravitational field around the ship with a mere thought, guiding it through space with the ease of breathing. And the most terrifying ability, she could feel the energies of the anomaly calling to her, urging her to go deeper, to unlock more. The power was intoxicating, and Carter knew it. There were moments when she struggled to hold on to her own humanity, to keep herself from falling under the sway of this new force. And she wasn't the only one. The members of her team, once ordinary men and women, had started to change. Some began to develop new powers, abilities that seemed to manifest without warning, each one more incredible than the last. Ensign James Vallon, once a humble communications officer, had gained the ability to manipulate energy, creating powerful bursts of light that could disintegrate solid matter. Lieutenant Aria Foster, a former medic, had developed a strange healing touch that could regenerate tissue and even heal neural damage. But these powers came with a price. The strain they placed on their bodies was immense, and there were rumors of individuals whose powers were becoming uncontrollable, even dangerous. Captain Carter knew that the longer humanity relied on this power, the more unpredictable it would become. There was no guidebook for what they had unleashed. They had no idea how far they could go before the energy tore them apart. Meanwhile, on the galactic stage, the Zentari Empire had begun to mobilize its vast forces in response to humanity's unprecedented attack. Emperor Kroth, now fully aware of the magnitude of the threat, had put the entire Zentari war machine on high alert. His advisors, once confident that humanity's new powers could be suppressed with ease, now feared the worst. "We underestimated them," Kroth growled, slamming his massive insectoid fist onto the war table. "Humanity is not like the other species we've conquered. They don't fight like others. They don't follow the rules of war. They're a force of nature," interrupted his chief strategist, Cal Rash. "They're unpredictable, and they adapt too quickly. The outpost attack was only the beginning. What if they've already moved beyond us?" Kroth's mandibles clicked in thought. His eyes narrowed as he considered the growing threat. "We will strike first. We will crush them before they can fully awaken whatever it is that's fueling their rise." But Kroth knew he could not rely solely on brute strength. The Zentari's most skilled tacticians were now devising strategies to counter the humans' newfound power, but even they admitted they could not predict the full scope of humanity's potential. The humans' unpredictability made them more dangerous than any other species the Zentari had ever encountered. At the same time, on the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the Thalxian High Council met in secret. The Thalxians had long prided themselves on their mastery of telepathic control, bending entire civilizations to their will through subtle manipulation of thoughts and emotions. But humanity's rapid evolution in mental resistance had shattered their illusions of invincibility. "We cannot let this power grow unchecked," Grand Master Rill, the most powerful telepath among the Thalxians, stated firmly. "Humanity is the one species capable of breaking the balance of the galaxy. Their powers are unlike anything we've encountered. We must act now." There was a consensus among the council: humanity had to be neutralized before they could tip the scales in their favor. The Thalxians, ever calculating and patient, knew that they could not simply overwhelm humanity with brute force. They would need to infiltrate, manipulate, and deceive, using their mental abilities to weaken the humans from within. And yet, as the forces of the galaxy aligned against them, the humans were growing stronger. The Federation's secret project to harness the energy from the anomaly had been advancing rapidly. On Earth, the brightest minds in science and engineering were working tirelessly to uncover the secrets of humanity's ancient origins, piecing together the puzzle of their cosmic heritage. Each new discovery seemed to unlock another layer of power that could not only defend humanity but could reshape the entire galaxy. In the Federation's underground facilities, Dr. Nathaniel Hayes, one of humanity's foremost scientists, had uncovered something that sent shockwaves through the highest levels of government. The anomaly, he realized, was not just a catalyst, it was a gateway. Humanity's ancestors had used this energy to shape the very fabric of the universe, creating a network of power that extended beyond time and space. "The power we're feeling," Dr. Hayes explained to President Toms in a classified briefing, it's not just within us. It's part of the very fabric of the cosmos. Humanity was never meant to be a passive species. We were always meant to evolve, to ascend to a level where we could control this power. Tom's mind raced. If what Hayes said was true, then humanity wasn't just awakening to their potential, they were reclaiming their place in the universe as its rightful rulers. The tipping point had arrived. Humanity's rise was no longer a quiet revolution. It was a storm, one that would shake the foundations of the galaxy itself. And as the rest of the galaxy prepared to fight back, humanity was preparing to embrace its destiny. The universe would soon feel the full weight of humanity's unstoppable power, and it would never be the same again. The galaxy had become a battlefield, and humanity was at the center of it. The shockwaves of the Federation's rise had reached every corner of known space, and no one could ignore the fact that humanity was no longer a minor player. They were the catalyst for a galactic shift, one that no one, not even the most ancient of civilizations, had been prepared for. The Centauri, still reeling from the destruction of their outpost, had assembled their mightiest war fleets. Thousands of warships, each one a fortress of armor and firepower, had been deployed to the outer rim. Emperor Croth, having learned from the mistakes of his first attempt, knew that this time, the humans would not be caught off guard. Their powers, unpredictable as they were, had already proven to be a significant challenge. But he was confident that with sheer force, they could crush the human resistance and put an end to the rising threat. Meanwhile, the Thalxians had begun their own covert operations. Their telepathic abilities were unrivaled, but the emergence of human mental resistance had made them cautious. They had infiltrated key Federation military structures, placing agents among the highest ranks. Grandmaster Rill, their most powerful telepath, had sensed the rise of a new force within humanity, a force that could potentially challenge their centuries of dominance. The Thalxians knew they had to weaken humanity before it became too powerful, and they would do so by manipulating the minds of humanity's own leaders. In the midst of this brewing storm, Captain Sophia Carter stood once again at the helm of the Peregrine. The ship had become more than just a symbol of humanity's strength, it was now the tip of the spear. With every passing day, Carter and her crew grew stronger, more attuned to the mysterious force that had awakened within them. They had become conduits for the ancient power, able to manipulate the very fabric of reality. But Carter knew that this power came at a cost. Every time she used her abilities, the strain on her body grew heavier, the energy threatening to consume her. Still, there was no turning back. The galaxy was preparing to strike, and humanity would either survive, or rise above them all. The first full-scale confrontation occurred on the fringes of human space, just outside the system where the anomaly had first been discovered. A massive Centauri fleet, led by Emperor Croth himself, had arrived, ready to engage the human forces head-on. The Federation, still in the process of organizing its newly formed fleets, had only a fraction of the military strength the Centauri possessed. But they had something far more powerful on their side, the element of surprise. The Peregrine led the charge, its crew using their newly acquired abilities to bypass the enemy's advanced weaponry. Carter's command was precise and unyielding, the ship cutting through the enemy lines like a hot knife through butter. Ensign Valen, now able to channel intense bursts of energy through his body, struck down entire squadrons of enemy fighters with devastating force. Lieutenant Foster, once a medic, now healed her teammates in the heat of battle, keeping them alive long enough to land the decisive blows. But the Centauri were not unprepared. Their warships, massive and unyielding, retaliated with ferocity. Energy beams rained down from the skies, and colossal Centauri battlecruisers began to converge on the Peregrine. Carter's ship was surrounded, and it seemed as though the human fleet might be overwhelmed. Then, just as all hope seemed lost, a new force emerged. A fleet of Federation warships, led by General Elias Grant, arrived in the nick of time. Grant had been gathering humanity's greatest minds, transforming the Federation's military into a force unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. These ships were equipped not just with advanced technology, but with weapons powered by the very same energy that had awakened in humanity. The battle turned in an instant. For the first time in galactic history, the Centauri were forced to retreat. Their once invincible war fleet, now badly damaged and shattered, turned tail and fled. Emperor Croth, stunned by the unexpected turn of events, could not comprehend the defeat. He had never anticipated such a direct assault from a species so new to galactic warfare. Impossible, Croth muttered as he watched the Peregrine and the Federation fleet chase them from the system. They've tapped into something greater than us. But the victory was not without its cost. The battle had left humanity's forces in disarray. The Federation's fleet had sustained significant damage, and many of the newly awakened soldiers were beginning to show signs of mental and physical strain. The toll of tapping into such raw power was beginning to take its effect, and not every soldier would survive the strain. Captain Carter, her mind still reeling from the battle, knew that they had won the first fight, but the war was far from over. And now, humanity was on the radar of every major civilization in the galaxy. The Thalxians, ever patient, had observed the battle from the shadows. They had underestimated humanity's resilience, but they would not make that mistake again. Grand Master Rill knew that the time for subtle manipulation had passed. It was time to take more direct action. He began assembling a group of the most powerful telepaths in Thalxian history, preparing to launch a covert assault on humanity's leaders. They would break the humans' will from within, bending them to the Thalxians' control before the human resistance could organize. Back on Earth, President Toms faced an impossible decision. The Federation was now in the crosshairs of every major power in the galaxy, and though the victory at the battlefront had bolstered humanity's morale, the true cost of their newfound power was becoming clearer with each passing day. "We've awakened something," Tom said, his voice heavy with concern as he met with his advisors. "But I'm not sure we understand the full extent of what it means. The Thalxians, the Zentari, everyone is watching us. They'll come for us, and we're not ready for what's coming next." Dr. Nathaniel Hayes, the lead scientist on the Anomaly Project, stood nearby, his mind racing. "It's not just about surviving anymore, President. This is about humanity taking its rightful place in the galaxy. We have the power to reshape everything, but we need to control it. We need to understand it, before it consumes us all." As the war for the future of the galaxy raged on, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. They had shown the galaxy that they were a force to be reckoned with, but the real test was yet to come. Would humanity be able to control the power they had unlocked, or would it destroy them from within? The battle for the future had begun, and the universe would soon feel the full weight of humanity's unstoppable power. The galaxy was on the brink of collapse, and humanity stood at the center of the maelstrom. The victory at the battlefront had bolstered the Federation's confidence, but it had come at a cost. The damage to their fleet was significant, and their newly awakened powers were proving to be more of a curse than a blessing. The once unified Federation was now divided, torn between those who saw humanity's rise as the key to their dominance and those who feared what might happen if their powers were allowed to grow unchecked. Back on Earth, President Toms convened an emergency council to address the growing crisis. The recent battle had revealed the true scope of humanity's potential, but it had also exposed their vulnerabilities. The power they had unlocked from the anomaly was not something they fully understood, and there were whispers among the highest ranks of government that the power was beginning to change people in ways they hadn't anticipated. "Some of our soldiers are starting to crack," Admiral Fiona Clark said, her voice tight with concern. "They can no longer control the energy inside them. It's becoming too much. We can't risk the entire Federation collapsing under the weight of this power." General Elias Grant, ever the optimist, disagreed. "We can't afford to retreat now. The galaxy is on the brink of a new era. Humanity's power is the key to our survival. We can't allow fear to dictate our actions." But it was Dr. Nathaniel Hayes, the lead scientist on the Anomaly Project, who voiced the most troubling concern. "We don't fully understand what we've tapped into. The energy is not just a weapon, it's a force that's tied to the very fabric of the universe. It's reshaping us in ways we can't predict. If we don't find a way to control it, it could consume us all." Tom sat silently, his gaze distant. He knew the stakes were higher than ever. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage, and there was no turning back. But the question remained, could they control the power they had awakened, or would they be undone by it? Meanwhile, the Centauri, having retreated from their disastrous confrontation with humanity, had not given up. Emperor Croth, though defeated in battle, was far from defeated in spirit. The Centauri Empire, vast and ancient, had never faced such a challenge. But Croth was a strategist, and he understood one simple truth: humanity's power, though impressive, was still raw and unrefined. It was only a matter of time before it turned on itself. "We underestimated them before," Croth growled, his mandibles clicking with frustration. "But we can still use their weakness against them. The humans don't yet understand the cost of their power. We'll make them see the true price." The Centauri had developed a weapon unlike any the galaxy had ever seen, a device capable of draining the energy from the anomaly itself. It was a gamble, one that could either destroy the Federation or leave the Centauri powerless. But Croth was desperate, and desperation bred reckless decisions. With the Centauri war fleet regrouping, Croth gave the order. The device would be deployed to Earth itself. But the Thalxians, ever patient, had their own plan. They had long seen the potential of humanity as both a threat and an opportunity. If they could bend humanity to their will, they could control the galaxy through subtle manipulation. But the Thalxians had underestimated one thing: humanity's unity. The Thalxian agents, embedded deep within the Federation's leadership, had been feeding false information to key officials. They had worked to sow division among humanity's ranks, turning generals against one another and pitting factions within the Federation against each other. But as tensions within the Federation grew, something unexpected happened. The more the Thalxians manipulated, the more humanity seemed to fight back, not just against the external threats, but against the internal chaos as well. Captain Sophia Carter, now one of the most powerful figures in the Federation, had grown suspicious of the growing rift within the ranks. Her team, once a close-knit unit, had begun to show signs of fracture. Some were beginning to lose control of their abilities, while others were growing more distant, caught in the grip of the same power they had once embraced. Carter knew that humanity's true strength lay not in their power, but in their unity. They had to come together, or they would fall. "Enough of this," Carter said, her voice unwavering as she addressed the Federation Council. "We've fought too hard to let ourselves be divided. The galaxy is already coming for us, and if we don't stand united, we'll lose everything. It's time we stop being afraid of what we've become and start embracing it." Her words rang out like a clarion call, and something in the Federation shifted. The divisions that had plagued them began to mend, and the once fractured forces of humanity began to rally behind Carter. It was clear now that humanity's survival depended on more than just their newfound power; it depended on their ability to come together and fight as one. The Centauri's plan was already in motion. As Croth's fleet approached Earth, the device to drain the anomaly's power was activated. A massive surge of energy surged toward the planet, threatening to undo everything humanity had worked for. But just as the device neared completion, something extraordinary happened. The anomaly, humanity's power source, began to react in ways no one had anticipated. The energy, which had once been a tool of destruction, now seemed to be fighting back. The cosmic force that had awakened within humanity was no longer just a weapon; it was a guardian, a force of nature that rejected the intrusion of the Centauri. Captain Carter, standing at the helm of the Peregrine, felt the surge of energy coursing through her body. It was as if the very essence of the universe had aligned with humanity's will. In that moment, she realized that humanity's power wasn't just a gift, it was a responsibility. And with it, humanity could reshape the galaxy. With a single thought, Carter tapped into the full potential of the anomaly. The energy flared to life, engulfing the Centauri device in a storm of raw power. The device exploded in a blinding flash of light, disintegrating the Centauri war fleet in its wake. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as the power of humanity's will surged across the stars. The battle was over. The Centauri were defeated. The Thalxians, still reeling from their failed manipulation, retreated into the shadows. And humanity, once a forgotten species on the edge of the galaxy, stood victorious. But as President Toms looked out over the battlefield, he knew this was only the beginning. The universe had felt humanity's unstoppable power. And soon, the galaxy would learn what it truly meant to face the force of an entire species united under one banner. The rise of humanity had begun. The aftermath of the battle left the galaxy stunned and uncertain. The Zentari Empire had been decimated, their once mighty fleet scattered across the void, their emperor reeling from the defeat. The Thalxians, masters of mental manipulation, had underestimated humanity's resilience and unity. The Federation, despite internal divisions and the strain of harnessing powers they barely understood, had emerged victorious. But the true cost of this victory was yet to be realized. Humanity, once a fledgling species among countless others, had proven itself a force beyond comprehension. The anomaly that had granted them such power was no longer just a mysterious energy source, it had become a symbol of humanity's ascension to the top of the galactic hierarchy. But with this power came new challenges, and humanity's place in the universe was anything but secure. In the quiet aftermath, President Toms addressed the Federation Council in a war room that had grown silent with anticipation. His face, usually composed and resolute, now bore the weight of a leader who had just witnessed the birth of an entirely new chapter in human history. "We've won the battle," Tom said, his voice steady but heavy with the enormity of the moment. But the true war has only just begun. The victory against the Zentari and the Thalxians had been nothing short of miraculous, but the galaxy had seen humanity's strength, and it would not stand idly by. Species who had once regarded humans as insignificant would now look to challenge them for dominance. Others, like the mysterious Chrysos hive, had begun to move toward human space with unknown intentions. And still, there were factions within the Federation who worried about the long-term effects of the powers they had unlocked. "We are stronger than we've ever been," General Elias Grant added, his tone a mix of pride and caution. "But this power, it's not something we can control forever. There are forces beyond us, species more ancient than we can imagine. What happens when they come for us next? And what if the power we've gained starts to unravel us from within?" Captain Sophia Carter, standing just behind Tom's, stepped forward. The events of the past days had changed her irrevocably, as it had for everyone who had fought alongside her. She had felt the surge of energy, the overwhelming force that seemed to flow from the very fabric of the universe itself. But now, as she stared into the faces of those around her, she knew the hardest part of their journey was yet to come. "Humanity has always adapted," Carter said, her voice resonating with the calm strength that had become her trademark. "And what we've just done is only a glimpse of what we are capable of. The universe isn't going to bow to us just because we have power. We will have to fight for every inch. But we've shown them that we are not to be underestimated." Her words struck a chord with those in the room. Humanity had proven itself worthy of survival, worthy of leadership, but the galaxy was vast, and it was not going to let humanity rise to prominence without challenge. Carter knew this better than anyone, especially as she looked out across the stars and felt the weight of the responsibility they all now shared. Back in the heart of the Federation, Dr. Nathaniel Hayes had been working tirelessly to understand the true nature of the anomaly, the energy that had transformed humanity. His latest research had uncovered a staggering truth. The anomaly was not a random event, it was a signal, a call that had been echoing through the cosmos for millennia. "This power, it's not just ours," Hayes said in a private briefing to President Toms. "Humanity was chosen to tap into it. The anomaly isn't a gift. It's a test, a cosmic trial. And there's more coming." Tom's brow furrowed, his mind racing. "You mean we're not the only ones who've been affected?" Hayes nodded gravely. "No. There are others. Civilizations that have come into contact with the anomaly in the past. Some were destroyed by it. Others learned to wield it, but at great cost. Humanity has only just begun to understand its power. But we need to be prepared for what's next." As the Federation strengthened its borders and rebuilt its fleets, strange signals began to emanate from beyond the known galaxy. The anomaly, it seemed, had attracted the attention of forces far older and more powerful than humanity could have imagined. Ancient beings who had once ruled the stars, now silent for eons, had begun to stir. They had been waiting for humanity to reach this point, and now, they were watching. In the heart of Thalxian space, Grand Master Rill stood before his council, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and respect. Humanity has awakened the sleeping gods of the galaxy, he whispered. We are not prepared for what is coming. The Thalxians had long thought themselves the galaxy's manipulators, the hidden hand behind the rise and fall of civilizations. But humanity's rise had thrown their careful plans into chaos. The Thalxians knew they could not hope to control this new force, they would have to adapt or perish. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Chrysos hive, an ancient race of hive-minded insectoids, watched with keen interest. Their queen, known only as the Mother, sensed a shift in the cosmos, a new power that threatened to shake the foundations of the galaxy. We must prepare, the Mother ordered her generals. The humans have awakened something that can either bring destruction or bring them into our fold. Either way, we must be ready. The Chrysos hive, always calculating, had already begun to make contact with other species, forging alliances with those who shared their goals. The rise of humanity had created a new chessboard in the galaxy, and the pieces were moving in ways no one could predict. As humanity solidified its hold on the galaxy, the signs of an impending new era began to emerge. The galaxy was no longer a place of distant, uncaring species. Now, it was a living, breathing entity, a place where the actions of one could ripple across the stars. And humanity, once small and fragile, had proven that it could change the course of the cosmos. But this new power, this new age, came with risks and dangers that no one fully understood. The question now was not whether humanity would survive, but whether it could thrive in a universe that was now more chaotic and unpredictable than ever before. President Toms stood on the balcony of the Federation's command center, looking out at the stars. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity was no longer a passive observer in the galaxy. They had entered the great game. And the universe would feel the consequences of their rise, for better or for worse. The galaxy had felt humanity's unstoppable power. And soon, it would understand that humanity was just getting started.